welcome back to another edition of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. My name is Laura Hartman, and I'm your host. Today we have some very special guests joining us who are with the Virginia German Shepherd Rescue. And with me, I have volunteer and foster Debbie Marson, volunteer Mark DeAngelis, and also volunteer and also former foster, you both are former fosters, Tammy Huck, and their dogs, Ike, Heidi, and Maggie's hiding over in the corner somewhere. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing?
We're great. Thanks so much for having us.
Nice. So tell us about the Virginia German Shepherd Rescue and how long they've been, involved with helping with German Shepherds.
Sure. So Vgsr for short is, we just rescue shepherds and mixes. We have been around since 2001 and have saved 4,000 dogs.
Wow.
Found homes for 4,000 dogs. So it's very, very exciting. It's a great organization.
Okay, and you've been involved since for how long?
About 10 and a half years ago I got involved. Yeah, so a long time.
And how did you get involved? Did you just love German Shepherds, or did you, I guess you probably had them in your past?
I had a German Shepherd when I was a kid, but the way I got involved is there was a beautiful shepherd at our local shelter, and unfortunately people get a little bit confused when they get shepherds. They don't do well in kennels and in shelters.
Sure.
And the shelter wanted to put the dog down, and German Shepherd stepped up, and we took the dog in. He found a phenomenal home, and that was it.
Wow.
So I fostered that dog, and that was it.
Okay, great. And Mark, how long have you been involved?
I've been involved since 2011, which is when I adopted Heidi. And then I became a volunteer after that, and I fostered a couple of dogs. The last one was Ike. When I fostered him, the first day that he came home, he just decided he was not going to leave.
Okay.
And so I ended up adopting him, and so that's how I got involved. And I do home checks and help Tammy with adoption days and that sort of thing.
Okay. And Tammy, how long have you been?
I got involved about the same time Mark did in 2011, and I've always loved dogs, and I love the big dogs. And I started fostering a couple of years ago, and I fostered about 8 dogs with Virginia German Shepherd Rescue, and my last one was Maggie, who's a German Shepherd Lab mix, and she is my foster failure. I had her for about 2 months, and she was such a good fit, I decided to keep her.
Oh, okay. And foster failure means that they were meant to be with you, rather than being adopted out.
Right.
So it's a good thing.
So it's a very good thing.
You hear the word failure and you think, oh, that's bad, but it's actually a really good thing.
Okay. So, so how do people find out about your organization? Because I'd never heard of the Virginia German Shepherd Rescue until I went to Pet Value buying some pet food, and you guys are out in the front, so how do you usually get the word out? How is money raised for your organization? What is needed?
Okay, so the good news is there's breed-specific rescues. So if anybody's looking for any dog, believe it or not, there's a breed-specific rescue for them. And we advertise. We're on Facebook, and we have our own website, and we just try to spread the word as much as we possibly can. And we're statewide, so we have events at local pet stores every weekend almost.
Okay. Now, as fosters, what's the number of dogs a person can have that can foster? You mentioned that you had eight fosters. I don't think you had them all at once.
No.
So, and how do you, how do you know that you'd be a good fit to be a foster person?
So basically what happens is we have an intake group. So it's actually very well organized, even though we are all volunteers and we all have full-time jobs and have our hands full with most of life, but we do this in our free time, if that's such a thing. And so we have a group who does our intake. So shelters, people who are giving up dogs will send us messages. They'll email us or call us or whatever, and they say, 2 shepherds are at our shelter, can you take them? And then we have a group group of intake officers who do temperament tests. They go meet the dogs, and they try to assess, is this dog aggressive? If so, we might not be able to take him. But otherwise, Virginia German Shepherd Rescue is amazing. They'll take dogs who have heartworms or health issues or senior dogs, but they're really just an amazing organization. So at any given time, we have a list of maybe 10 or 15 dogs who are ready to come in. They've been temp tested, they're good to go, and then we're waiting for fosters to step up.
What are intake officers?
So they're the ones who actually respond to the emails. So like we get 50 emails, and which 50 these take. So the intake officer reviews the dog.
Are they like, is this a licensed type of job,
no.
or like how do they become an intake officer?
They're literally just volunteers within the rescue. Who we have different people. We have fosters. We have people who help with transport. We have people who help with intake. So people have different jobs within the rescue, and so these are people who have a lot of experience and a lot of and takes a lot of time and effort to do that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's a description of the dog. So we have a 6-month-old mixed breed, very friendly. Who can take them? We have a 10-year-old dog who's got some health problems. Who can take them?
Right.
And then us as fosters can look at that list and say, oh, I'll take that one.
Okay. And you know like how many you can handle at once?
Well,
I mean, like how many? I know you foster. You currently foster. So how many dogs do you have right now?
So I'm actually kind of the crazy dog lady.
Okay.
I have fostered over 300 dogs since Hurricane Katrina.
Wow.
And so at any given time, I might have between 5 or 8 dogs at my home.
Okay.
But I live in a single-family home with a large backyard.
Right. So you can handle it.
So yes, and I'm kind of used to the chaos. Other people might be more normal and only take like one dog at a time or something like that. So Tammy, I think you do one dog at a time.
Right, yeah, I'm in a condo. There's been times when I've had a personal dog, so the main thing is I need to make sure any foster I take will get along with my personal dog.
Sure.
And that they won't be too vocal. And I do prefer to have a dog who's house trained, but if not, then I will house train the dog.
Right.
And then at times I have not had a personal dog, so then I don't have to worry about whether a foster dog will get along with that dog or not, but then I do have to worry about, is the dog going to be okay by him or herself?
Sure. Okay. So just a quick question. For those who are looking to adopt a dog, like I actually know somebody right now that he really wants a dog, but he works a lot, and he doesn't feel like he'd have the time to be able to, work with a dog. And like, he thought about maybe getting like a dog walker or drop him off at like a doggy daycare or something. But how do you guys decide, where these dogs go? What, for as far as the breed, what type of person or family would be good with German Shepherds or mixes?
So I'll jump in first, and then you all, I'm sure, will weigh in. That's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
So you can find us on Pet Finder. So if somebody's looking for a dog, they can search on Pet Finder or come to our adoption events.
Okay.
One of the hardest job of foster is letting go of the dog.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the hardest. Finding the right family can take some effort. Not everybody should get a dog, even though there are millions of homeless dogs. Not everyone should, because they are a huge amount of work. It's when we say these are our children, they're like kids.
Yeah.
They're expensive, they're time consuming, they can be destructive. So if somebody doesn't have the time, they shouldn't get a dog, especially shepherd. Shepherds are extremely smart. You leave a shepherd alone in your house for 10 hours and your house is probably going to be rearranged when you get back.
I have a coworker that has got like a video camera on his house. He's got 2 German Shepherds, so when he first got them, they were moving around the couch.
Right.
He got it on camera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's, do you want to weigh in on?
I would like to offer that the first step perhaps is the home check.
Yeah.
When we go and we essentially get acquainted with these candidate adopters, and we try to see what their characteristics are and what kind of dogs they would get along with. If they don't have a whole lot of dog experience, we might put in a comment like, we don't, for example, we don't recommend a puppy for this family because they're not, really equipped to deal with puppy behavior. Maybe a mature dog would be better.
Okay.
So I think that's the first step where, somebody with some dog experience can figure out what the best fit is and put a couple of comments in there.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, and I would just say every dog is an individual, and so it's a matter of matching the family and the dog. Certainly someone who's working full-time, a fully grown dog is going to be a better fit than a puppy, but if there's a family who's committed to training and who's able to take a dog out every couple of hours, then a puppy would be a good fit. And even though we don't require that our adopted dogs go to training, it's always a good idea because the dogs can always benefit from the obedience training, and it's a bonding experience.
Sure. Okay, great. Next question, where do these dogs come from? How are they rescued? Were they strays? Did people abandon them? Were they given up? You talked about where the shelters will call you and say, hey, can you take them?
Right.
Which I think is great.
Right.
So
unfortunately, all of the above. So we find dogs as strays all the time. Don't ask me how, did they just were an unwanted litter or did somebody drop them off? Sometimes people will drop them at shelters. Sometimes people will buy from a breeder and then it doesn't work out. I had a beautiful, purebred, 8-month-old German Shepherd who the people had bought from a breeder, but it had, because of too much inbreeding, it had hip dysplasia.
Okay.
And the people didn't want to deal with it, so they gave the dog up. Some of them, the dog, Nabs we have out here, he was found as a stray. Where did these guys come from?
These are both rehabilitated strays. Heidi was very hyper, a 3-year-old. She could easily jump a 4-foot fence and terrorize a neighborhood. You wouldn't believe it now, but yes, that's, and Ike, I suspect somebody just decided you're too old, you're not fun anymore, we're gonna get rid of you.
Right.
And the story with Heidi was that she was probably used to breed, based on observations.
Right.
And eventually the backyard breeder decided to get rid of her. So that's the most likely story with her.
Right.
Ike, I'm not really sure, but he was also found as a stray.
Wow. So you think if this person was a breeder, maybe the neighbors saw what was going on? Could they report something
They would. There have been situations where neighbors or Good Samaritans have reported situations like this, but the dog was probably found so far away because she still had a rope on her neck.
Oh my God!
So when she was found,
rope.
She was very skinny. Yes.
Wow.
So it's probably likely that she was in a rural area, and the next neighbor was maybe miles away.
Wow.
And unfortunately, backyard breeding is legal. So that's a frustration for us, is that people think it's a way to make money. It's not, because somebody who breeds a dog correctly is not going to make money on breeding.
Right. Wow. So just real quick, because we just have a minute left, but you have some events coming up. You do weekly events. Can you talk about that real quick?
So we are statewide, so we have weekly adoption events all over the state. Please check our website. But we have a fun walk, a charity walk on April 29th at Lake Park up here. And again,
dogs welcome, right?
Dogs are welcome. It's a great way to get exercise. It should be a beautiful spring day. It's a walk and a run. We spend about $120,000 a year on vetting, and we survive solely on donations and adoption fees. But we're always short, and so that's a great way to help support us and get some exercise and meet some beautiful dogs.
Okay, great. Well, just in a few minutes, we are going to be talking with some volunteers. Right now, these are volunteers and people who have experience with fostering, so we will catch you in just a few moments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, and thank you, Heidi and Ike and Maggie. Maggie, wherever you are.
Maggie.
You guys are awesome.
And you can see we take purebreds and mixes.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. Yeah, that's really great. And it's good to, the website again is
Vgsr.org.
Vgsr.org.
Right.
Virginia German Shepherd Rescue.org. Hello, and welcome back to the second segment of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. With me, I have Mia Dubarber.
to Barbieri.
To Barbieri, who happened to adopt this wonderful, wonderful dog, Louie, from the Virginia German Shepherd Rescue. And she adopted, you fostered him, is that correct?
Yep, I
yeah,
fostered
this is
him.
Debbie Marson returning. And then we have volunteer Mike Lopez with his dog, Jack, sorry, with his dog, Jack. And in the back are Mia's kids. Say hi.
Hi.
What are their names?
Mason and Jack.
Mason and Jack. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us about how you got Louie and what he'll be doing for hospice and for children.
Sure. This is actually our second rescue from Virginia German Shepherd Rescue League. Our first dog, Cammie, who was Holly number 4 when she was with Virginia German Shepherd Rescue, we got in 2002. She passed earlier this year. And after a certain amount of time, we decided to go back through Virginia German Shepherd, and we got Nabs, now Louie. I work for Capital Caring Hospice, and so after a certain amount of training, we're really lucky that he will be a volunteer dog at our inpatient centers.
Okay.
So for patients that are end of life or pediatrics, he can go and kind of help them and be a support to them and be a calming presence to them, which will be wonderful.
So, so tell us about that. Like, say if somebody's at the end of their life, you bring the dog in, and are they aware? Because I know like a lot of hospice patients are drugged up a bit, you know.
Well, right, yes. I mean, it depends on, obviously, a hospice patient would have a diagnosis of 6 months or less to live.
Okay.
But they vary in all sorts of stages. And so we would really work with, what is best for the patient from a Louie perspective.
Okay.
Because he's very outgoing and puppy-ish at about 2 years old. So we want to make sure he's a calming presence and not, being aggravation necessarily. But they can be a lot of support, just being bedside and have patients just petting them and good for blood pressure, all kinds of different things. Yes.
Yeah.
But he has to pass some training first so that we get his little puppy-doms out of the way and he's a good presence.
Okay. And what's involved with the training?
Oh, just like making sure that he's no longer, he loves his first mama, nipping or not nipping, but like mouthing or doing things like this that we would want him to just sort of be more chill.
So what makes him a good candidate to be working with hospice or therapeutic?
He's wonderful with people and children in general. He loves attention, he loves love, and he's always happy to just be in the presence of other humans. So, he just gravitates towards people that need attention and love, and he's an all-around good boy.
Right. So when you got him, why did you change the name from Nab to Louie?
So he was Nabs when we got him, which is a strange name.
Yeah.
We're like, Nabs? But he was found on the streets of North Carolina, surrounded by a group of children eating their lunches. So I think he got the name Nabs, like they were feeding him crackers, and he's like, So, and he's always been amazing. So imagine being a stray and a young dog, and you just gravitate to children. So he just had a really wonderful natural disposition. He gets along well with other dogs. He's just his natural disposition. And I think what's so wonderful about him is, we were talking earlier about who would be a good match. Some dogs are only for adults. These beautiful children live with this dog, climb on him, and his disposition and temperament is just wonderful. And it's great for children. I mean, you can talk about how wonderful it is when your kids come home from school and he meets you.
Oh, he's so excited to see them. I mean, he races to the door. He actually seems to know what time Jack comes home off the bus because he's waiting right by the front door, waiting to see, here he comes, and you can see him walking, and it's lovely.
What better? I mean, that's the greatest gift you can give a child.
Sure, yeah. So with the with other rescue organizations, like the ones that match up dogs to like veterans, do you work with them too, or you just you're separate?
We're separate.
Okay.
So, all rescues kind of have the same mentality. We're trying to save as many lives. Unfortunately, 9 million, I don't know what the number, I think it's 4 million now, 4 to 5 million dogs and cats are killed every year in this country. So it comes out to about 9,000 a day, which is just shocking. So there's so many amazing groups who are helping. And there are great groups, and we have had people come to us who wanted service dogs. And yes, some of our shepherds have gone on to be working dogs and service dogs.
And do you ever get dogs from like retired dogs from police stations? German Shepherds? Because you think of police and German Shepherds go hand in hand.
No, but we do have a lot of law enforcement who are part of or foster or volunteers for our groups. Yeah, so we have police officers throughout the state who have either adopted or are volunteers for us. Or actually, one of my foster dogs who was supposed to be here today got adopted by a wonderful police officer, a female police officer. So it was great.
Oh, awesome. So Mike, how did you get involved with volunteering, and how did you get your doggie?
Well, Jack's actually my second dog from Vgsr. My first dog was another German Shepherd that I got back in 2004. And I didn't volunteer then. I just basically knew about the organization and adopted my first German Shepherd from them. It wasn't until recent that I started volunteering with Vgsr through Debbie when she helped me out in an incident that occurred some time ago with another shepherd that I had. So I decided at that point in time maybe a good thing to volunteer and give back to the community, a good way to get involved with the breed because I love the breed so much.
Right.
So I've been a volunteer for the last 2 or 3 years with the organization helping out.
What type of volunteering do you do?
Well, basically you'll show up at events and you'll bring your dog, or you'll help volunteer by holding a dog for an adoptable dog that's being fostered, and you'll answer various questions in regards to the organization and kind of fees that are required and what kind of dogs they have, and you also get a good feel for the people that are asking these questions to see if they'll be a good fit for the dog. Sometimes a dog and an individual may not be a good fit, just like you do with canine in the police departments. Just because you get a dog doesn't mean it's going to be a good fit for the handler. Well, it's the same for a regular pet for a individual. Especially when it comes to the German Shepherd breed, you have to be a pretty strong alpha type personality to be able to control, and because if you don't, the dog will test you and it will push you to try and be the dominant one, and you cannot have that, especially with a large breed, especially the image they give off to the public. A large breed, they're scared.
They're almost like a pit bull image, sort of.
Sort of the image, and you'll be surprised not only is it pit bulls, but also German Shepherds are considered vicious dogs, according to some counties have even specified them as vicious dogs, when they're not. It just comes down to the dog will pick up the personality of the person that owns it.
Exactly.
So that's why it's got to be a very careful mix and match right there.
Right. Okay. So you do weekly events.
Yes.
Like at Pet Value or Petco or whatever pet stores and stuff. A lot of the pet stores seem to get involved with fosters, and which is really, really good. So is there a need for more volunteers? Are you always looking for volunteers, and how can people get involved?
So we are desperate for volunteers, always desperate for volunteers, and first and foremost, we need fosters, because there are, like I said, at any given time, 10, 20 dogs are waiting to come into our rescue, and we simply don't have place until the spot opens up. So something bad might happen to that dog. Maybe he doesn't get rescued as a result. But if people can't foster, which we understand, we need people to transport. So for example, Nabs came from North Carolina. I just happened to be on a business trip in Raleigh and was able to drive him up. But we have people who go and pick up the dogs and then bring them to their foster. Adoption event coordinators or people who help at adoption events. Obviously fundraisers or intake officers, administration. So we have a whole array of people who do home checks. So the more volunteers, the better. And of course, what we need a great deal are fosters primarily, and then donations. So I know money's always tight, but if somebody can even or donate food, or donate in a leash, or if you have medications that if your dog has passed away. So any way to help, because our medical bills are our greatest expense, about $120,000 a year.
Right, and as far as like the vets, are there vets that volunteer their time to help you out at all, like in the area? And I know this is statewide also, so
we work with great vet partners, and most of them give us discounts. They don't do it for free; they do it at discounts. So we get we have wonderful partners who we work with, wonderful vets who help, but we still do have to pay. It's not free. It's we get a discount.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have been I know like the challenges are like the money stuff. But have there been any other challenges, or what's your greatest challenge, and what's your greatest reward?
So the greatest challenges for me, and certainly Mike can talk about it, is I guess I use the word ignorance, but ignorance in a way of people not understanding. Twofold. One is breeders who are just trying to make money on the breed, and they're not doing it appropriately, so there's a lot of inbreeding, which gives you an unhealthy dog, and then the dogs get dumped. So, these are living beings, and then to just dump them because they can't be saleable or something, that's a huge frustration to me. And I think the adopters, as I said, there are millions of animals who are being killed in this country every year, but if everybody who wanted a dog adopted rather than bought, rather than buying from a pet store or online, we could end homelessness. So dogs like these guys would not, these are both rescue dogs. This is now Mike's personal dog and Mia's personal dog. They'd be dead without Virginia German Shepherds. So that's the challenge. The beauty is every day I have a beautiful story. I mean, Mia's kids love this dog, and he's gonna live happily ever after from a stray on the street. Jack has a loving home for the rest of his life. I will tell one quick story if I have it. I fostered an 11-year-old 90-pound female German Shepherd who was incontinent. Okay, so I just assumed she was going to die at my home, which was totally fine. And much to my shock, somebody inquired about her, and I was just dumbstruck. And I literally wrote back and said, 90 pounds, she's not going to be around a long time, she's a little incontinent, and he said, I want to meet her. And he came to my house, and unfortunately I didn't see him pull up, and it was chaotic, dogs are barking, and I'm trying to shove dogs into crates while he's in the living room with this older female who was slow to warm up. I come out, the dog's head is in his lap, and he looks at me and he says, I want her. And he adopted an 11-year-old incontinent female, and he then later told me that at one point he got sick and she never left his bedside. It was just the happiest, most beautiful story. And unfortunately, she only lived, I think, about a year, but to me, that was like the most rewarding. She had a rough life, but the last was her greatest.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I do know, I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your friend Debbie Pratt, who was a volunteer for 12 years with the Virginia German Shepherd Rescue. Are there any words that you want to say to anybody?
So it's a huge loss for rescue. Actually, her funeral is going on right now as we're taping this show. So many Virginia German Shepherd rescues people are there. Debbie Pratt was a volunteer for over 12 years. She dedicated her life to saving animals. She was one of our intake officers. So there are hundreds of dogs in Virginia right now who have homes as a result of her. And so we're just deeply, deeply saddened by her loss. And for those of you who believe in the Rainbow Bridge, it was a beautiful, beautiful reunion on I think, what day? Thursday. On Thursday, she had a beautiful reunion there.
Nice.
So.
Well, I'm sorry, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Your website again is Virginia or VGR.
SR.
VGSR.org.
Right. Virginia German Shepherd Rescue, or the initials for that .org.
Okay. And you guys rescue from other states? It sounds like you go into
the surrounding states, West Virginia, North Carolina. We might go to South Carolina, but just the surrounding states, and adopt out within Virginia and sometimes the surrounding.
Do the shelters call you from other states that are surrounded and say, hey, can you, and then you go down and you have the transport people and stuff. So
that's right.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And if you're just tuning in, make sure you catch us on the web at www.potluck-online.org, and we'll see you next time.